Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the, well, it's not quite the virtual launch because I think you did an event earlier today, but in any case, welcome to Publication Day for Craig Johnson and his 16th Walt Longmire mystery, Next to Last Stand. Now, you might ask, why instead is my personal copy of The Cold Dish autographed by Craig here on the table? And the answer is that only today did Craig ship autographed copies of Next to Last Stand to us here at the Poison Pen for sale, and they will arrive on Thursday. So, Craig, I'm going to take us all the way back to 2004. Cold Dish, The Cold Dish. I still remember the impact of reading it for the very first time, and the very first Walt Longmire was so exciting. What kind of a memory? I mean, you have a lovely note to me here. Dear Babs, what a wonderful conversation. Come to Wyoming and your phone number. Now, Craig has been a long and happily married man, so that is not a pickup line. And neither
I hand those out to everybody, just so you know.
Got it. But in point of fact, the year before last, my husband and I did take advantage of Craig and Judy's invitation and did go to spend time with them in Wyoming. And with our copies of Next to Last Stand, we have a Christmas card we created, a postcard with a picture of Craig and Judy at the ranch, leaning on sort of a Walt Longmire truck. So if you buy your copy from us, you'll get that. Did I tell you we were doing that?
No, you didn't tell me that. No.
Sorry. Teach you to mail photos around, don't it? Right. So I was trying to count earlier, and with 16 novels, 2 collections of short stories, random other events and so forth, this must be at least our 20th event together.
I think so. I think so. And it doesn't seem like that to you. Does it seem like that to you? Because it doesn't seem like that to me. It seems like, we've known each other for like a couple of years. I guess we're having a good time, right? Because time is flying by, I guess.
Well, either a couple of years or forever, depending on how you look at it. I mean, it is kind of hard to remember life before you, and, before you and Judy, but in any case, this is the first time we haven't been together in person. So we've tried to add a few things for those of you watching that will make this more fun. Craig is going to tell you a bit about the setup of Next to the Last Stand, and then we're going to show you a picture of the famous painting, because I think that the discussion will make more sense if you actually look at it. So Craig, this is an art heist, the one form of fiction you hadn't yet written for Walt. I personally love art heists. I think they're great. What interested you in this particular painting, and in fact writing this kind of a book?
Well, it was one of those things where, I'm always trying to, work different, aspects of, Western literature, and certainly of the high plains in the area here where my ranch is on the Montana-Wyoming border, trying to work, that kind of, information into the books, like, just because I think that there's a responsibility. I mean, that great quote from Studs Terkel where he said, nothing ever happened nowhere, and so for me, it's an opportunity to try and take some of those bigger points, like, and try and include them in the books. And so, the Little Bighorn is like about 90 minutes up the road from where my ranch is. So, it's kind of easy, like, for me to think about, including that, in the books. And so then the question became, okay. What?
Right, I think that Robert Taylor will be upset if I don't admit him, and I'm pretty sure.
Oh, well, okay.
Wait, he went away. Oh dear, sorry. Let me check. There he is.
Oh, there he is.
We let him in. Hi, Robert. He's connecting to audio. I'm sorry, Craig, to interrupt you, but I thought if I left him there,
that's fine. That's fine. He's looking very manly, isn't he? He's looking very, very outdoorsy, very manly here.
He's showing us the whole scene. I love it.
Can you see over there? Can you see what I can see?
Yes.
No, you can't. There's hundreds of kangaroos over there.
Yeah.
Robert, are you on your phone?
Yeah.
Do you think you could turn it sideways?
Oh, like that.
Yes. Thank you. Now we can see more.
All right.
So, for you who expected Walt Longmire to show up, in fact, here he is. How exciting.
And there he is.
Right.
He needs a haircut, though. I think Walt Longmire needs a haircut.
Dying for a haircut, dude. I need ones so bad,
Right.
but oh, there's some big ones over there. I should get closer.
Right. Well, Walt, we were just having Craig do a setup for Next to Last Stand so that we would know what the book is about, and we're going to show a picture of the painting. So, Craig, now that we have Walt in the house, let's go back. I apologize for interrupting you and start over.
No, that's fine. That's fine. It'll be good to have Robert here because he has a kind of like, kind of George Armstrong Custer kind of hairstyle going here. I think this will work out perfectly as far as that's concerned, I guess. So, you have a hat, Robert? Do you have a hat that you can put on or something like that? That's,
Dude.
Gotta get that under control, or is that,
Well,
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, anyway,
Put on a
as
Wyoming.
far as the painting is concerned, like for me, the big issue. Oh, it's a good Wyoming hat too. Like that's good. But the whole thing for me, like that was, is the little bighorn battle was huge. Like it was a lot to try and take into consideration. And then the point would be, okay, well, what kind of an access point are you going to use, to talk about it? And so, I mean, I know Robert's never been in any saloons or bars or anything like that, but the way that painting has been described has been the painting that's been viewed by more questionably inebriated art critics than any other art work in the history of American history. Like it, and so, and what happened was, of course, it became the Anheuser-Busch painting. Like that, whenever Anheuser-Busch, like at Augie Busch, bought the painting from the saloon that went out of business in St. Louis, and then he started printing up like about 1 million copies of posters of this painting and sending them out all over the country. And they're in like every hotel, every restaurant, every saloon, every bar. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll do a little bit of research on that painting and find out what the story was on it. Well, the history of that painting is just about as dramatic as, the historic event that it portrays. It was sold, to Budweiser. They made a huge campaign out of it, making them like themselves one of the largest brewers in the world. And then, they, in a fit of philanthropic zeal, Augie Busch gave it back to the 10th Cavalry, who at that point in time was based in Fort Bliss, Texas. And it hung in their commissary until 1946, when the commissary burned to the ground and the painting was destroyed.
Maybe.
Or what? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So then the big question became, okay, well, Walt gets this call like that, and he's supposed to go up to the Wyoming Sailor and Soldiers Home. And, we have that. It's like about maybe, 5 miles outside of Buffalo. I'm sure Robert's seen it. It's the old Fort McKinney as you're going up the mountain, so it's right there like that. And so I thought, I asked the sheriff, Larry Kirkpatrick, who'd been the sheriff from Johnson County, I said, do you ever have any reasons why you ever go, up to the veterans home? And he said, oh, yeah. He says, we get calls periodically like that. He says, they'll pull a foot locker out from underneath one of these veterans, beds, and, they'll find something in there that they're not supposed to have, maybe a weapon or ammunition or things like that, and he says, it's our job to go up and take care of that for them and all of this. So it got me thinking, and I thought, well, what if they pull one of these things out and all of a sudden there's a Forsheim shoebox full of $1 million, and a little part of a painting, just a little piece of a painting. And I thought that would kind of send Walt maybe down a road that he's like more comfortable in, because, Robert played Walt for 6 years. I've been writing about him for 16 like that. And one of the things I think that Walt can't resist is a mystery. If he gets the opportunity to start doing research to try and find the answers to something, then he can't control himself. He's going to have to do it. And then the other thing is it was kind of an opportunity to do something a little bit lighter. The last 2 books, were a little bit dark. The Depth of Winter was extraordinarily dark.
And a little bit dark.
Was a little bit dark like that. And then, I decided it was time to maybe do something maybe a little bit lighter. It seemed like an art heist might be the direction to go.
Well, I think it's wonderful. And Robert, I'm so sorry that you will not get to play Walt Longmire investigating this particular crime, because it's so cool.
You never know.
Never know.
You never know.
I'm still hoping for a movie, so we'll see how it all goes. Robert, what part of Australia are you in?
I just drove off the mountain down here. So this is a little place called Mount Beauty, and I'm looking at have a look at this. Can you see those roofs?
Yep, sure can.
They're everywhere. They're pretty nice. A little gamey. But,
According to what kind of sauce you use,
all right. It's me.
So
Relax.
I think this would be a great place. Patrick, can you show us the painting at this point? We're going to take a quick look now at the painting because I think that it will tie into a further discussion. I have to bend over here so Patrick can do this. Share screen, it's called. Right.
Okay.
Do you want to sit down?
Anyway, I thought I'd show you that.
Hold on. All right.
It's nice to see your friends, Robert. It's nice to see your friends and neighbors. Like that's
Yes. You got to watch where you step. They leave a mess.
You can give us a close up of that too if you want.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
There. Whoa! It disappeared. There it is. Okay. So, for those of you watching, this is the Anheuser. Can you get rid of the Zoom thing? Yeah. The Anheuser-Busch Custer's Last Stand painting. I will add that if you Google Custer's Last Stand as a painting, there is another artist who has created one, and at first I caught that one. So you need to be careful if you want to look at it yourself that you get the one that Anheuser-Busch bought. And it's particularly important because if you look at it and you see the guy in the red shirt kneeling, that is a part of Craig's story, right? There it is. Yep.
It is. It was. It's interesting like that because but the actual painting title is Custer's Last Fight, rather than Custer's Last Stand. So that's one thing. Like to help, differentiate between all of the ones that have been done. But that was actually one of the fun parts about the writing the book like that because there have been so many books written, so many movies made. I mean that was hilarious. I mean one of my favorite scenes is the one that's in the bar. In the Red Pony Bar and Grill, where Walt and Henry are arguing, over what really happened at the Little Bighorn, and I think it's the Errol Flynn. They died with their boots on is what's playing on the TV, in the bar at that point in time. And what they call it, that particular film, what they call it up on the Cheyenne and Crow Reservation is instead of calling it "They died with their boots on," they call it "They died with their facts wrong," is what they call it. And there's a lot of truth to that. I have to admit, like that. It didn't seem like telling the real story was a strong suit for them at that point in time. But anyway, like that, the painting itself, is about 16.5 by 9.5 feet tall and long. I mean, it's about the size of the side of an 18-wheel truck. So it's a very large painting, like that. And it was actually Cassilia Adams' son said that he had cavalry officers and Indians who came in and posed for him, so that he could get the proper field, for the painting. Well, there are a couple of things that are wrong. First of all, the topography doesn't look particularly like the Little Bighorn. It doesn't look the way that the Bighorn Mountains are not in the background. The Indian villages on both sides of the river, which it wasn't. And those are a little bit of nitpicking things. But the cavalry officers, they kind of look like cavalry officers. They're not too bad. But the Indians, they didn't make out quite so well. They look like they got to the Little Bighorn by way of Rorke's Drift, in Africa, by way of the Seminoles in Florida, for goodness sake. They're wearing these really strange, red, flaming headdresses, and they've got these giant, turtle shell, shields that they're carrying and all this stuff. And so it's a little bit off in many ways. And it was interesting because I found out later that about 10 years after the Little Bighorn battle, that was when the Battle of Rorke's Drift actually happened with the Zulus. And so there are a lot of comparatives, between these two. This was two, developing, technologically advanced nations that were kind of set back on their heels by what at that point in time were deemed as being very primitive tribesmen. Everybody was really shocked. I mean, the Battle of the Little Bighorn in 1876, it was the 100th anniversary of the United States. They were playing a doubleheader back in Chicago with the White Sox when they got the news, that Custer's, 7th Cavalry had been wiped out at the Little Bighorn, and so it's, it was kind of an interesting period, and what it also hit was it also hit at a period in time when advertising was just starting to go nationwide. And so there it was, that print was in every saloon, every bar, everywhere. Like, and I just thought, okay, that's a good access point to maybe start, doing a little bit of digging into the research of this. Like, and I have to admit, I had a great time doing it. I'm as big of a sucker for research as Walt Longmire, I have to admit.
Oh, you absolutely are. And if you had to have a piece of the painting that would be recognizable in order to make your art heist work, it would be the red coat, right?
Yep, rain in the face. Like at the actual chief, like at that's depicted in that one little artist's study, like it is rain in the face. And it's very, one of my favorite parts in the whole book is the part where Walt is in the bathroom of the Red Pony Bar and Grill taking care of business and happens to have his gaze go up and where the painting is in the bathroom, and he realizes that's it. Like, for the first time, I was able to convey a major clue in a bathroom for the first time in 16 years.
Well, that's certainly a landmark.
Kind of proud of that,
So while we have Robert with us, because he probably would like to move on at some point, let's talk a little bit about Longmire. So, Robert, 2012, it began 6 seasons. Do you miss it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I miss the. Say hi. Say hi.
Hi. Not a kangaroo, but a little.
She's getting big, right?
She is. I hardly recognized her, for goodness sake.
She's big.
Oh, that is Scarlett. That is Robert's daughter. Like that's.
Yeah.
Hi.
She was born when we were shooting the pilot.
And for the first time, you've lured my wife into camera range here.
Hello.
You finally, the only way you can get her to get off the camera.
Wow. It's a family show. I love it.
Can't wait to see you in person.
Oh man, we so missed it this year, Wyoming, with torture. I mean, I was there in February, but sorry, what was the question? Yeah, I missed it. I mean, who doesn't want to be in a Western? What boy doesn't grow up want to be a cowboy in a Western? So it was unbelievable. It was a gift. Craig Johnson invented this amazing thing, and I got to go there and just play a small part of it. It was just, I mean, I remember we were doing it. There's some young actors. They all think it's like you're playing a World Series when you're 20 and lose it. You think you'll be back next year. I said, no, you need to soak up every second of this. It does not get any better than this. It doesn't. This is, everything else is going to, I mean, I guess I'm prepared for that. I've been around a long time, so I can, I'm okay with it.
59 years.
Don't tell them how old I am. I'm not. It's not. What's wrong with you? I'm not even that.
Well,
She's adopted.
wonderful. So, Longmire Days. Robert, I have not been to Longmire Days, so were you able to attend them ever?
Me? Oh, yeah. The only one I missed was the first one, which was Craig with his card table outside the Busy Bee, which actually would have been the highlight for me, sitting there with Johnson, because they served beer out the front there. We would just sit there all day, and the stories would have got bigger, and, the laughing would have got bigger, and, yeah. But, no, I love it. It's so great. The fans come, and all the actors come, and then the people I've got to know in Wyoming have become good friends. Tom Coltisker, and I don't know, there's hundreds of them who stayed with HFR Ranch. It's just a great time. It's just so much fun. And we ride horses and, drink some beers and tell stories.
Well, the virtual Longmire Days this year would not have been the same. But Craig, how did it go? Because I know you did have one.
It went really. I mean, I'm always a little bit, hesitant as far as any kind of use of technology like that, and so for me, it's always like a little bit, I never know if it's going to work out or not like that, and so I mean, there's a reason why Walt doesn't carry a cell phone. I mean, I'm really. I don't think I'm a complete Luddite like that, but I'm not very technologically oriented like that. So thank goodness, we had some help and some assistance, from some folks who had some technological abilities. Paul, like it was fantastic. Like, and Jennifer, knocked herself out as usual to put the whole thing together like that. And it was extraordinarily well attended. It was fantastic. And then, we the auction went fantastic. The raffle went fantastic. We made a ton of money, for charity and all of these things. And, what it boils down to, though, is the fact that, all of the actors, here it is, 3 years, since the show's been in production, and they were all just so gracious and so kind, to jump in with both feet, and attempt to do this with us, and it was really great to see the audience response. It was wonderful.
So, Robert, were you part of it?
Me, of course.
Of course.
Yeah, you couldn't keep me out of it.
I love it.
Every year.
Yeah, next year, the 10-year anniversary. We're really excited about that. So
they better stock up on beer, dude, because I know you like that expensive stuff.
I do. I do.
That bourbon, but yeah, we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna do some fishing. We're gonna do some riding. We're gonna do some lemonading. Yeah. There she goes.
There she goes.
Barbara, did you ask him how he got
Chasing Brush. Hey, is anybody watching
how he
this,
got
or
the
is
gig
it
in the
just
first
you and
place?
me, Craig?
We got the.
It's just us.
The
Okay,
role.
we're just us.
That's
That's
Right.
cool. Say whatever you.
So,
Oh, really?
Robert, I've heard Craig's side of how you became Walt Longmire, but we've never had a chance to ask you.
First off, Craig Johnson is Walt Longmire. Let's just clear that up right from the get-go. I'm coming off the bench, but he's the guy, right?
No. Well, I got a sneaking suspicion. Nobody sends Robert pictures of me of them, with me. And I get a lot of people sending me pictures of them with Robert, so I'm pretty sure, that it's Robert's job now.
Well, yeah, well, maybe, but the job. I remember they sent me a script. I remember reading it and thinking, "Oh, this is the job I've been wanting for my whole career. This is the guy I wanted to play." And I thought, of course, I won't get it. They always hire the famous guy. It's like a catch-22 in the movie business. You got to be here to get the job, and you can't get the job if you're not here. So don't ever believe that all the good actors are the ones that you know. That is the greatest fallacy in my business. I've met them all around the world. So these people.
Are you friends with Katy Perry?
No, I'm not friends with Katy Perry, Scott. Who? Taylor Swift? No, don't know her. Justin Bieber? No, sorry. Maybell? I don't even know. Friends with Craig Johnson? What do you mean, who's that?
She only knows me as Cowboy Man, as I recall.
She's just being a
I was
smarty
called
pants.
Cowboy Man for the first 2 years that I met Scarlett.
Say hi, Craig. So they sent me the thing,
Right.
and I put an audition on tape for it. They sent it off, and then I just forgot about it. And then no, Scarlett, 1 second. Go play in the traffic. There you go. Okay. There's no traffic here. I forgot about it. And then I was driving somewhere, and I thought, what happened to that Longmire show? I thought, oh, well, they got Costner or someone, I don't know. And right on cue, the phone rang, and they said, can you be in LA tomorrow? And I said, well, yeah. So I went over and did another audition, and I just knew, I just knew that I absolutely, the audition I did in Hollywood I just knew that I couldn't do any more. It was just those things are so hit and miss. And I remember leaving it.
Do you know Miley Cyrus?
I don't know Miley Cyrus. Oh, I met her. I have met her. Yes, but I wouldn't say I know her. We're not close. Sorry.
Tell her about Dolly Parton. Just tell her about Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton. You like Dolly Parton?
Well, I know you worked with her, so
Very nice lady. She's.
I bet you don't have a billion.
Oh, that's not very nice. Did you hear that? Scarlett, you can just stop, okay? Because you're stepping in kangaroo poop. Or you don't? It's just you and me, right? There's nobody else there.
Barbara's in charge.
Only several hundred other people, right? We're good.
Other
Anyway,
people?
there are at least that many, right? There'll be thousands watching it by tomorrow. But in any
Oh
case,
my goodness.
so you were.
Where's the bookstore? Where's the bookstore?
The bookstore is in Arizona, where Craig actually once rode down on his motorcycle from Ucross, Wyoming, population 25, in order to sign books. We have been together for everything Craig has written.
You poor thing.
No, it's really been a pleasure. And
You're a saint.
see this? I brought my own personal copy of the first
Did
long
he sign it for you?
novel.
Is that a first edition?
It is. Autographed to me by Craig and with his phone number. Yay.
Now, Craig, we've been to Aaron with his phone number.
Yes. Make of that as you will.
Judy? No, you can't play with my phone. I'm using my phone. It's not going to work. I'm sorry.
In any case,
Hey,
you
We
were.
were in the Tucson Book Festival, as a matter
We've
of
been
fact.
there twice.
We were in Tucson.
We've
Yeah,
been there
we did the
twice.
Tucson Book two times.
Do
Yeah.
you remember the cops pulled us over?
Yes.
And
I
you tried
do.
to sweet talk them?
No, I think I recall them when they pulled us over. They took one look at you guys and said, "Are you guys the guys from Longmire?" And that was
Maybe.
all over with at that point. Like if we'd gotten a ticket, we would have gotten out there a lot faster like that. But then we had to get out on the sidewalk and take pictures, with the police there in Tucson, like that. So
Yeah.
took the best anyway.
Well,
I
it's
got
not-
pulled over once in Santa Fe when I was working. I was following Adam Bartley, and he's a bit of a lead foot. And I was fine, and the policeman pulled me over, and we got talking, and after about 30 minutes, he's calling his buddies to come for photos, and I was talking to his wife on the phone. I said, sir, if you could just write me a ticket, and I'll be on my way. I'm kind of 30 minutes late. It was pretty funny.
Well, how often
He's a
does
great
the
guy.
sheriff come to town, if you
Definitely.
think about it? Right.
Santa Fe.
So-
Anyway, I got the sticker on the car here, Craig. Look.
Well, we have a reading that you did for us, Robert, that we are going to play, a recording. So that'll be fun. Want to
When did I do
introduce
that?
it yourself? I don't know. All I know is we have it.
We hired a Robert Taylor impersonator like that who actually recorded it. Like
Right.
it
Awesome.
turned out that he was much better than Robert Taylor, so we let him.
He's good looking, that impersonator. Good looking rooster.
In any case, I don't want to play it while you're still here. So, anything you'd like to
Okay.
tell us about Longmire or your life or what you're working on or anything?
Oh, well, I'm nothing at the moment. Everything's stopped. I had a few jobs. I was over there in the States, and I had to skedaddle. My wife was going to skin me. So I got back here, but I'm gagging to get back there and get back to work. And, my wife's so sick of me saying I want to buy a ranch in Wyoming, and I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it. We've not been in the city because of this virus here. We've been up here, and we got this place up here in the country. Hang on, sweetie. We've been here for 5 months, and none of us want to leave. Darling, what's the food? Let's speak here. What?
I took a photo of his license plate.
That's great. Probably illegal, but have fun. Oh, it's a horse trailer. It's all right. So, yeah, I'm just waiting to get back to work, and still hoping for some Longmire movies. I know Yellowstone's rating through the roof, so that's good for us. I don't know. I think it's going to happen, but we'll see. We'll see. Nothing's happening at the moment. Everything's just kind of stopped.
Well, I really
but I
hope there
hope-
will be a Longmire movie or two or three. There's a very good, we watched recently a very good Australian production called Mystery Road, which had a few elements, I think.
Oh, that's my buddy, Aaron Pedersen.
Yeah?
Yeah, I know that guy.
I thought
Worked
it
with him
was,
a bunch.
I thought the TV, I like the TV part better than the movie. But, there's the Australian Western actually plays quite well here in the United States.
Well, it's, the state of Western Australia, that's one state, I think 2.5 or 3 times the size of Texas. every time I used to be in Texas a lot. I had a girlfriend there years ago. Always be telling me how big it is. It's so big, it's so big. And I asked them, how big is it? It's not big. It's not big. But so Australia's, the similarities are much more striking than the differences. Like I was just looking at some. You drew me. That's great. Look at that. Wow. Awesome. So talented. I was just looking at some old photos of some rodeos here, and you look at old photos in Australia, and they just look like the West. They just look, it's the same deal. There are all these drunken Irishmen and Scotsmen riding horses. What are you doing, sweetie? Crazy. Anyway,
you're immortalized on the book covers because I'm looking at a cold dish, and there you are in the paperback.
I love that.
I know.
I love that. I keep thinking they're going to stop doing it, but every time I see it, yeah, another one.
Here you can see, I can hold it up here. Like that, since I didn't get Barbara.
There he
folks,
is, right.
You need to send me one, Johnson. Were you going to send me one, or I pick it up when I get there?
I think they were sending you one, supposedly. That was what they were doing. But boy, shipping it to Australia, it's kind of a tricky business. I don't know. It may be on the slow boat. It may be on the same boat as the Wyoming books. I don't know. You never know.
Well, we'll find out, won't we?
Beautiful up here.
It is. Well,
yeah.
What do you think, Robert? Should we play the video of you doing a reading? And I'm not sure, to be honest, what is it a reading of? Because I haven't listened to it. Patrick has.
The beginning of the book, is it, Craig, or beginning?
Yeah, it's from the very. It's not the very beginning of the book, but it's very close to the beginning of the book. It was interesting for me like that because I have to be honest. And I mean, we've all heard Robert doing Walt, for 6 years and everything like that, but not so much an extended narrative him talking for pages. You actually get to hear him and hear the thoughts in Walt's head. And so for me, this was a particular joy. I have to admit, to have Robert doing this and to hear his voice, in my words, not interpreted in any way that by another writer. It was just what I had written in the books, and it's very interesting to hear that voice combined with the words.
Well, let me move aside, and Patrick, do you want to come over here and start it playing? I assume you need to get back in my seat in order to do that.
Is Robert going to stay?
I don't know, but I would just go ahead and do it.
All right, no problem. All right. Hey, guys. Let's see if I can pull this off.
You got my math.
All right, let's see.
Wearing it like that.
Here we go.
Turning in a circle and driving by the front opening of Fort McKinney, I glanced at the boys out enjoying the summer sun in front of the red brick sign, but was distinctly aware of the gap in the middle where a fifth electric wheelchair used to always sit, for all the world reminding me of the missing man aerial formation used by squadrons to salute a fallen comrade. I continued on toward one of the two remaining original buildings, the old Fort Hospital, now serving as the visitor's house, the other being an honest-to-goodness chicken shed that was on the National Register of Historic Places. I opened the other windows a bit, climbed out of the 3/4-ton truck, reached back and stroked my sidekick and perennial hand finder on the head. I'll take you for a walk when I get back. Okay? These big St. Bernard German Shepherd dire wolf eyes stared back at me. I will. Honest. This shouldn't take long. Closing the door, I walked toward the front entrance of the Dutch hip gable-style building and paused to take off my hat as I knocked on the door. At the flagpole to my left, a staff member was lowering the flag to half-mast. Inside, I walked by wicker furniture and an abandoned big-game checkerboard on a small table. I watched as the maintenance man tied off the flag near the AGM-28 Hound Dog air-launched cruise missile that was the centerpiece of the fort's static museum. I stood there for a moment, saluting, when I heard footsteps approaching from behind and turned to find Carol Williams, who functioned as both a caretaker and an administrator. A small woman with the silver hair leaned against one of the posts. "You been out there talking to the waivers?" They gave me the lowdown on Charlie Lee. "They still ask you to bring them beer?" "Every time." She shook her head. "I'm sorry, Walt, but if the feds ever found out, that's all right. I'm not so sure I want them drinking and driving those aftermarket contraptions of theirs." Amazing, isn't it? It's a competition among all of them, hopping up the motors and using different tires. Delmar stole the motor off one of our washing machines to try and put in his wheelchair. She sighed. Boys. After a moment, she stood up on tiptoe, studying my face. "Well, I heard about it, but I hadn't seen it. That's some scar. Thanks." She crossed her arms. "I think Charlie Lee was one of the last Korean War veterans we had. Moving on to Vietnam now. You trying to tell me something?" She smiled. "I just think about all the history being lost. When an old man dies, the library burns to the ground. Voltaire?" I shook my head. "An old African proverb." I held the door as she motioned for me to follow, and we ducked into the main building. "We'll head over to Charlie Lee's room in a moment, but I'd like to show you something first." We walked down a short hallway, hung with black and white photographs from a time when this was an actual fort. Charlie leave a bazooka or a flamethrower in his footlocker? Something like that. She stopped at her office where Gene Weller, the security guard, stood at the door. "Hi, Gene." "Hey, Walt." Carol paused to pull out some keys and unlock her door. "Having a security problem here at the fort?" Now, she gave me a knowing look, but I had no idea what it was I was supposed to know. "Come on in." Her office was a small room with more photographs and a certificate of commendation for Chief Petty Officer Williams on the walls. There was a bookshelf of mostly military history, crowned with a large handmade model of the USS Missouri, and a very clean and orderly desk where, sitting on a leather blotter, looking somewhat out of place, there was a large, battered, floor-shine shoebox with a rubber band holding the lid closed. I stood in front of the desk, looking down, my hands on my gun belt, the web of my thumb resting on the hammer of my Colt. "So it's not bigger than a bread box." She sat in a chair, rested her elbows on the blotter, and laced her fingers to provide a cradle for her pointed chin. "I take it you've already opened it." "I have. It was on the top when we pulled out his footlocker. I secured his room, brought the box back here, and called you." I nodded, reaching down, gave her one last look, and then slid off the rubber band and flipped the top. Inside was a white plastic grocery bag, carefully wrapped around a symmetrical bundle that took up the whole box. I glanced at Carol again, and then peeled the plastic away to to reveal scores of bills picked together in small bands. I withdrew one of the packets after noting not only the number, but also the denomination. Hundreds, all of them, in bands of 100, yes. I glanced at the box again to see if it was really completely full. How many packets? I haven't emptied it, but estimating from the size, I'd say 100. Peeling a bill from the packet in my hand, I held it up to the overhead light. Well, I'm no expert, but it doesn't look counterfeit to me. Me either. She shook her head. You can see why I didn't go any further without you being present. Boy, howdy. I nudged the box with a forefinger. Any note in here? Receipt for deposit, withdrawal, anything? She shook her head slowly. Nothing that I saw. But then I didn't go all the way through it after I saw what it was. I studied the stack about a half-inch thick. Usually the bands have a bank name, but these were blank. I nudged the box, as if poking it might get it to give out with some answers. No writing on the box. Floorshine, Midtown, plain toe, zip boot, brown, size 12. She stood. You want to head over to his room? I stared at all the money. Cool million. Now you know why I called you. So, I returned the bill to the packet, reinserting it amongst its brethren, then replacing the lid and rubber band. 50-50.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much for doing that. What a treat for everybody watching. Indeed. So, Craig, what else would you like to say about Next to Last Stand after that wonderful lead-in?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I want to follow that or not. Like, I think Robert does a pretty wonderful job. Like, it's so. It's I think it's a fun book. Like, and I had a really good time doing this one like that. And it was another one of those ones that was very, research intensive. Like, I've been working on the research on that book for about 2 years now. Like, and it's easy to fall into that rabbit hole like that, where you get too much research in a book like that. And so I like to think that it was a good balance. Like, I'm going to be interested to hear what the readers have to say like that.
Well, I certainly thought it was. I really enjoyed reading the printout, which your publicist kindly sent me. Patrick, do we have questions that you want to bring up?
There's so many people watching it.
There are so many hundreds of people watching it that Patrick's having a hard time finding questions.
They're coming in faster than I can keep up with them.
Right.
Let's see. I'll get back to you if I can find a few here.
Okay, he's going to search for a few and see how we do. Robert, do you keep up with any of the other actors in the show? Do you guys?
Oh yeah, Adam Bartley, really good friend of mine. Katie Cassidy, A. Martinez, Louis Hertham, John Bishop. He was meant to come to Australia with his daughters, and none of that's happening. But yeah, Adam's been to Australia twice to stay with me. I brought him up to this place even. Yeah, all of them. Lou, everyone. Especially Adam. He's a special case.
All right, they're starting to come in.
All right, Patrick has a few questions.
Yeah, let me see if I can do these. Let's see. Gail asks, Robert, have you ever considered writing a book?
Oh, of course, but I don't know. you got to have skill and ability. Apart from that, I'm really well qualified.
You don't need that at all. Like, you don't need that in the least. Like,
And I guess some acting.
no.
You was in the show.
I did my one scene like that in I can't remember. I think it was like the 6th episode of the 6th season, as a matter of fact. Like that. So I think it was, and I think I was 6 minutes in the show, so it was like 666. So it was, that kind of gives you an indication, like
You milked it though, didn't you? Fortress.
All right, another question.
I was coerced by my wife and the producers into doing this, and it was tough because it was like a one-on-one scene with Robert, like that, and so he'd been waiting for 5.5 years for the opportunity.
Oh yeah.
And so
I took my opportunities too. Have some fun here.
More questions?
Yep.
we had a wonderful time, but I don't think I don't see me doing that again.
All right, we have another question.
I'm happy writing. I'm happy doing it.
All right, Craig, I have a question for you, which is, you're 16 books in. How do you keep track of all the plot details? Is there a Bible that you keep with all the information?
No, not really. Like, I think, and I think I'm not the only author that does this. I think it really comes down to the amount of time that you spend, in that world. I mean, I usually spend about 8 to 10 hours working on the books on a daily basis. And I work, 6 days a week, and I cheat on Sundays, like it. And so I'm actually spending probably more time with those characters than I am my real family. And so it's not really all that difficult.
They appreciate it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. They're happy. Believe me, they would be worried if I was around more and underfoot, any more than I am already, like that. But yeah, and it's for me, like they're very interesting. Like the characters are still they still carry a great deal of interest for me, even after 16 years of doing these books. I still haven't plumbed the depths, of who these characters are. Every new book, operates, an opportunity like it to discover something else and to delve into them in another way, like that. And I don't know. I just but one thing I do though, I do cheat. The way that I cheat is that if I've got a book that harkens back to a previous book. The one I'm working on now is called, it's for next year, it's called The Daughter of the Morning Star, and the majority of it takes place up on the Northern Cheyenne Reservation. And so the other book that I wrote that took place on the Northern Cheyenne Reservation was As the Crow Flies. And so one of the things I do is I get the CDs out of George Guidell, who does the audio versions of my books. And what I do is I put them in the CD player, because one of the occupational hazards of living in Wyoming, which is the same occupational hazard of living in Australia, and the same occupational hazard of being in the traffic in Phoenix and Scottsdale, is that you spend a lot of time in your car. And so as I'm driving, I can listen to George reading the books, and then I can get all that information without going back and having to delve through. I'll get it just passively by driving, and it's pretty handy, I gotta admit.
That is really clever. I'm also in a position to tell you that Craig's writing studio in the main house on his ranch is a somewhat death-defying thing to reach and exit. Plus, if I remember right, it has a gigantic piano. Do I have that right? Yep. So it's a commitment for Craig to go up there and not come down. I would have Judy putting food in a basket that I could raise. So I only had to do the latter once.
Barbara's making commentary on my building skills. I think she's making critical commentary there.
No, and I really love the guest house, which I've been privileged to stay in, but it takes another death-defying trip in the night to descend from the bedroom down to the facilities and go back up, so you have to leave a light on. Right, so there it is, Johnson at home.
And then I've got the cabin up on the mountain that I'm refurbishing. It was like an 1897 cabin up in the Bighorn National Forest. And so when Robert comes back, that's where I'm going to stick him. I'm going to stick him up on the mountain.
Perfect. All right, another question, Patrick?
Yeah, okay, this question is about kind of adapting the books into the TV series. Were there any characters that you wished had made their way onto the screen that did not? Not really?
The dog.
Two, yeah, and that's one of them. Yeah.
The dog.
Yeah, I think the camaraderie between Walt and the dog, the fact that he's able to have these like running conversations with the dog, and the dog understands everything that he's saying, you know, all the time. Like that is was one of the joys. And then Dorothy from the Busy Bee Cafe. I really wanted Dorothy from the Busy Bee Cafe to make it in there, and I don't know, a couple others like at Lonnie Littlebird. It would be fun to have Lonnie in there. That was, you know, one of the fun scenes I think in Next to Last Stand, when Lonnie tells the story about his great-great-grandfather fighting, you know, in the Little Bighorn battle, and he keeps getting distracted, you know, and everybody wants to hear the story, but he'd rather discuss whether there's enough ice in his Coke, you know, or whether it's a Diet Coke or a real Coke, you know, and so, you know, those little moments, like, you know, you get a chance to bring those characters back. It's always a joy, like that, and yeah, you know, I always wonder what they would be like, you know, if you were to see them, you know, in the TV show, like that, how would they have interpreted them, like that, because the casting directors did such an incredible job with Longmire. Really, really kind of stunning. Like, I mean, none of the casting that they did was predictable, which was what they were shooting for. Something that, you know, would really arrest people's attention and not be, you know, just the same old Western over and over and over again, which I think, you know, Robert played a very large part in that.
Absolutely. Another one?
Yeah, here's a question for Robert. It says, Thomas asks, has Robert read all of the books, and if so, does he have a favorite?
So this is a tricky question. Craig and I have discussed this because I started reading the books. I loved the books, adored the books, but the books were a bit different to the series, and I was starting to get Craig's Walt inside my head. And he's a bit different, you know. He's got a better sense of humor, and so it's tricky, you know. Like when we know if we ever done with movies or we don't make movies, I've got all the books, got the last one coming. I'll go back and read them all again, but they're a bit different. It's like William Shakespeare, and he created this thing, and then people go off, and there'll be other versions, you know, in 10, 20, 100 years, people remake it. It doesn't get done one.
I think we lost him.
Oh no!
Well, his phone is talking, but we've lost the video. No, there he is. He's back
You there?
again. You're back. We
I
just
got
lost
my
you
wife
for a
called me to
moment.
pick her up.
Yeah.
Is that a question? She's coming up the road here somewhere, the country road.
Wow. Now, I think your point is a really good one. That, you know, storytelling is on a different platform has you know, goes in different ways, and you can't really make them the same. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same guy, it's the same thing, but different. It's like it's a version of what you know. We can't ever forget that Craig Johnson created this thing. He made it. It's him. And we had writers on the show, and it was just slightly different, and I had to inhabit it. And not method acting. I think that's a made up nonsense, but it's hard. You know, I used to talk to what's his name, the actor that played Bailey's dad, Greg.
Merc Brainy.
Yeah,
Brainy.
We talked about it a lot. It's so hard to even describe what it's like for what we do. But, you know, I love that guy. We had a real similar way of working, and I don't know, it's so hard. And I read those books, and I just get lost in them, and then I go to work, and he's slightly different. You know, I would kind of carry it around with me a little, not method, but I was always thinking about it, and just feeling moments and playing moments in my head. And I don't have a lot of room in my head for much stuff, Johnson, you know.
Well, the difficulty, I think the real problem is like the books are written in first person. So it's Walt's head. You know, I mean, you're in Walt's head from the page 1 to page 330, like that. I mean, and so I can see how like it would be difficult. It would be very, very difficult. Like, and one of my favorites was there was, I guess, some kind of detail that came up where like Robert was arguing with the director, explaining, you know, like, well, yeah, but no, but Walt does this, that, and the other thing, and everybody's looking at him like, that's not in the script. Where did you get that? Like, and he had to say, well, there's another source, you know, like that I'm looking. So
yeah, the main source, but it you know, anyway, it's a tricky one. It's really, but a lot of actors will tell you the same thing, you know, and it's I don't know, it's, you know, oftentimes on movie sets they will not let the writer set foot on the set. They won't. Well, it was different with Craig, because Craig totally got it in the way we were working. He totally understood it. But I've worked with writers, and every single moment, you've got to unlock the actors. You've got to allow them to, or else you're just hiring robots. You know, you got to hire someone that's going to bring something to it. And you have your own way of getting there or finding it. It's hard to describe. I don't know, but
I think you did just now. Like, and I think what you said was right on the money, like that, because it's a question of like a collaborative effort, like that. That's what you're looking at whenever you're looking at TV or movies. I mean, you've got hundreds of people that are involved in producing something, whereas when you're writing a book, you know, you're all alone in the room. You're all alone in the room. You're writing about your imaginary friends, like that. And so sometimes writers don't have the best social skills, and you know, and like loosening the reins a little bit, allowing
often.
Any other questions there, Patrick?
Yes, here's a question. Elaine asks, why was Branch added to the TV show when he wasn't in the books?
Well,
good at jeans.
Well, there is that. Like, you know, I just got finished doing an event with him at Mercury, like at McIntyre's, rather, like in North Carolina, like that. But yeah, the character that he was based off of more than any other character in the books was probably Santiago Cesar Vittoria. And I think that when they were putting the components together to, you know, make the television show, they wanted him to be a lot more aggressive, like a much more of a dramatic conflict in opposite of Walt, like that. And so they kind of took the character, and also Turk Connolly. Turk Connolly is in the book in The Cold Dish, and that's who they based the character off of, like, and then just broadened that character to include a little bit of Santiago Cesar Vittoria, so that Walt would have an in-office dramatic conflict.
Makes sense. All right, any more?
Let's see. Yes, Craig, how long does it take you to write the average Longmire manuscript?
About a year. It takes about a year for me to write one of the books. Like, and some of them are a little bit, you know, more, you know, problematic. I mean, obviously this one, I've been doing the research on it for a couple of years now. As a matter of fact, if you look, I think it was the second or third episode of the first season of Longmire, they actually mentioned, it's kind of a subplot, but they mentioned, you know, the Cassili Adams painting, Custer's Last Fight. It's actually a plot point in the storyline. And the reason why the directors and the producers, you know, included it was because I was talking about that book all the way back then. I mean, that was almost almost 9 years ago, when I was talking about this particular novel. Like, and it took me this long to finally get to the point. I mean, there are a couple of different things I take into consideration whenever I'm doing a book. One is, where are the characters right now? And what kind of an effect, you know, is this particular story going to have on the characters? How is it going to evolve them? How is it going to, you know, move them forward and develop them in more ways? And then also the other one is the season. It's a question of, you know, what time of year is it? I write the books in a cyclical manner so that it takes me 4 books to get through 1 year of Walt's life. So each one of the books has a season, a particular season. Well, I'm not going to write a rodeo book that takes place in January, so sometimes I kind of have to take one of the storylines and put it up on the shelf and wait until the proper season comes around and the characters are where they need to be to develop the storyline, like, and then start that book. And this one was one of those. Like, it took a while to get back around to, but I had a really good time writing it, I have to admit.
So I have a question, which is, how did you envision Walt recovering from his trip to Mexico and all the dark things that happened there? You can't have him be like Teflon Walt and, you know, brush it all off. So you must have had to think at least 1, if not 2 books ahead when you wrote it.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I mean, you know, the Walt in the books is not in as good a shape as Robert Taylor, like that, so it's a little more difficult, like that, you know. So he's a little older, you know, has a few more scars like that than Robert does like that, and so
I got plenty of scars.
I'm not talking about
Hey guys,
I'm not talking about mental scars like that.
I'm gonna have to take off because I think
All
my
right.
wife is wandering the backcountry roads up here somewhere.
Well, thank you very much, Robert. It's really been a pleasure
sorry.
to have you here. No, it's fine.
I hope she finally picks you up. I hope she finally comes around and picks you
Oh,
up.
I got the car.
Well, you have to go find her.
All right.
Like,
Yeah,
okay, I hope you
she's
finally pick her
Well, we'll say goodbye and many thanks.
up.
bless you
Bye,
all.
Robert.
Hey, Craig, I'll give you a call, buddy. I'll call you tomorrow.
Okay. It's a deal.
Answer your damn phone.
I will. I will.
See you later.
Bye.
All right, Craig. I got a couple questions. Pamela asks, this may be a plant question. Do you rely on Judy's opinions when writing?
Okay, Judy, come back out into the
You
kitchen.
guys know Judy like that. You guys know Judy like that. Yeah, absolutely like that. I mean, that's the problem, of course. Whenever you live in a town of 25 like that, Judy's the one that's stuck here at the ranch with me like that, and so she gets used an awful lot in the books like that. There are little aspects of her character that that I use in a lot of different characters like that. But yeah, and then it's interesting because it's also one of those things where I get asked questions, at workshops and everything. Should I have my my significant other be involved with my writing? Should I have my husband or my wife or whatever be involved with my writing like that? And yeah, it's a kind of a double-edged sword there. It's kind of like asking your car mechanic to paint your house or something. It might not be something that they're particularly equipped to do. It might not be something that they're particularly good at. I'm extraordinarily fortunate like that Judy has a really incredible education and editorial background. And so I'm able to utilize that. And the other thing is that even though I have a lot of really marvelous folks to work with at Viking Penguin who are just absolutely marvels in the editing job that they do, like that, in the job that they do in going through my work, they don't know me quite as well as Judy does. Judy knows me better than anybody in the world. And so, she can probably spot my weaknesses and my strengths, a little quicker than anybody else like that. And, of course, the most, dangerous words here at the ranch are whenever Judy's reading something back that I've written and she says, "Is there another way to say this?" Then I know I've fallen victim to lazy writer. The example I always use is the red hot gun barrel swung around under the looming mountains. Well, the gun barrel's always red hot. The mountains are always looming like it. And so it's an opportunity like it to change things up, because my job is not to really put the reader to sleep by writing things that have been written before. My job is to try and find new ways to say those things. And boy, that's where Judy kind of keeps me in line. So yeah, absolutely. She's a major part of the whole process.
Well, you come back to that old Elmore Leonard thing about I leave out the words that readers skip. I mean, it's amazing how much of writing is actually pruning rather than writing.
Oh yeah. Oh
Truly
yeah,
is.
absolutely.
All right,
Absolutely.
Patrick, another?
Yeah, this is one. I almost missed this one. Gail Mary, I think that's how she pronounces it, says, as an Air Force Vietnam-era veteran, I love the storyline of Walt and Henry. If you ever have a need for a female veteran's perspective, get in touch, and I can put you in touch with her.
Good to hear.
We had several
For
veterans.
me, it was important, like that that obviously with the things that Walt and Henry do, that they had to have a military background. And people have asked. They said, "Well, do you worry about them, being older?" Like that. I'm like, "Well, no. It takes me 4 books to get through 1 year of their life, like it." And so, after the 16 years that we've known them, they're only 4 years older than when we first met them. So I'm not particularly worried. I would like to sign up for that same program, actually, like that, if I could, like that. But it just,
You and me.
Anyway, like yeah, and that's something I'm going to reapproach too. Like there's I've already started, doing some research on Johnston Atoll, where the provost marshal of the Marine Corps kind of like sticks Walt, to finish up the last couple of months, of his last tour, like that, before he leaves the Marine Corps to come back and become the sheriff of Absaroka County in Wyoming. Like that. So I'm looking forward to that one. That's going to be a fun book to write too.
I have a question. Absaroka County is obviously fictional, but at the same time, you've placed it in northern Wyoming. So where roughly does it fall in your mind?
It kind of like implants itself right over top of all of Johnson County and a little bit of Sheridan County too, as a matter of fact, and maybe a little bit of Campbell County. I mean, we have counties here in Wyoming that are as big as Maryland, and so that kind of makes for a lot of opportunities as far as when you've got a sheriff or a character for him to go in a lot of different directions like that. But poor Johnson County is the one that bears the brunt, because in this most recent book, in Next to Last Stand, we've got the Bradford Britton Museum that's in the book over in Sheridan, with the Sheridan Sheriff's Department. A lot of different things like that have been really kind of fun to play into. But poor Johnson County is never going to get mentioned. It's never going to get mentioned because it kind of is where I've pulled all of the real details out of Buffalo and Johnson County. So it's only fair that I should give them Longmire days on a yearly basis to kind of make up for the fact that they're never going to appear in the books.
So I have one last thing to say, and then we'll let you go because it has been an hour, amazingly enough, or more since we started.
Hard to believe. Seems like 10 minutes.
On visit to Wyoming year before last, Craig encouraged us to go and visit the Buffalo Bill Museum of the West in Cody, Wyoming, which is a fabulous museum with wonderful archives, just full of stuff. And part of Next to Last Stand, in fact, takes you to this wonderful museum where a big scene occurs. So, you love that museum. Did you bring it in just so you could talk about it?
I'm actually on the board of the McCracken Research Library over at the Buffalo Bill, like that, and they are just absolutely. I consider them to be one of the most eminent Western museums in the world. It's just absolutely a fantastic facility, like that, and I love going over there. I love doing research there. That was one of the places where I went to do some of my research, for Next to Last Stand, and they were so helpful and so wonderful, like that, and yeah, it's such a spectacular place, like, and I kind of had to use it in the books. It kind of got a little bit sidetracked though because Walt has to wear a rented tuxedo that's 2 sizes too small, and it kind of makes for a difficult evening event for him, like that. There's one point in time where Vic comes over to him and says it's formal, not statuary. You can actually move, while the party's going on, like that. But yeah, I found myself in that position numerous times, with rental tuxedos, and so it was an opportunity, like to also get some of my friends, from over there, like that are actually part of the staff, at the Buffalo Bill, and include them in the book too. So.
Well, if any of you watching this go to Wyoming or live in Wyoming for that matter and haven't visited Cody and the museum, I can't recommend it enough. And indeed, the McCracken Library is amazing. And thank you for setting up a tour for us. As a former librarian, you can imagine how excited I was to do it. Craig, this has been purely wonderful. It was lovely that Robert could join us, and Judy just briefly for a moment. So thank you for keeping our record clean of consecutive events. And when we can travel, maybe we can do one in person, but maybe we'll find something else to Zoom about sometime in the next few months. That was always fun.
I'm sure we will. Like that. And, keep Wyoming in mind. We're just up here on the other end of I-25. Like that. So come on north.
Well, we will. Yes, indeed, because I really love our time with you. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Don't forget, we will have signed copies of Next to the Last Stand with a very cool Christmas postcard of Craig and Judy at the ranch. Available not tomorrow, today is on sale date, but they'll be here on Thursday, and then we'll start shipping, or you can come in and pick yours up. Thanks a lot. Good night.